Let's talk about perimenopause and neurodiversity. I first became aware that a lot of people talking about their own experience of ADHD resonated for me, I would say, when I was maybe in my early 30s. And it was mostly when people described how they were when they were little, and reminders from my brothers that their names for me when I was little were things like tinfoil shiny, or this kind of hand movement that meant brain with no filter. Everything just flows out. And memories of my mum shouting at me saying, "What's wrong with you? You're hyperactive. Just sit still. Just stop talking. Just be still. Just stop." And so looking at these kind of so-called symptoms of ADHD and seeing that a lot resonate from my childhood, and looking back to 10 years I had in London where I just didn't stop. Every night I was out because there was something new and exciting and shiny to do. And I was constantly the one initiating and arranging gatherings, get-togethers of all people. And I was too exhausted to meet my friends individually. So I put them all in one big party and they got to know each other. Although I did do one-to-ones as well. But I also made time for things like yoga and trampolining and salsa and meditation classes and 5 rhythms dance classes. I did everything. Like, I had such a full life. And it wasn't until I left London after 10 years that I realised I was exhausted, and that I'd been very up and down because I was exhausted and burnt out. I just didn't stop. And my first 3 years of living outside of London, I found really boring, and I was really lonely because I didn't have that constant stimulation, that external input of exciting things to do and new people to meet and new places to go. And it was a really tough journey, actually. But by the end of that, I realised that I'd found a peace that I hadn't known existed. Or rather, I'd only found it temporarily on a little island I go to in Croatia every summer that I've been going to since I was a child. And it would take me a week or two before I could rest when I got to this island. And then I'd find this slower way of being. And I found that on a more permanent basis once I got over this sense of boredom and loneliness that a quieter town gave me, a quieter town than London. Anyway, as an adult, seemed fairly functional, always got fantastic appraisals at work, kept saying to them, "Are you sure there's nothing wrong? There's got to be something I can do better." But I realised that I had this kind of perfectionist streak. I had to be the best. So I wanted to know any area where I could do better so that I could be better. And I did voluntary work. I worked, I studied, and I did lots of things all at once. And I had about 10 books on the go at any given time, as well as 3 drinks. I exaggerate, it wasn't 10 books, it was probably more like 5 or 6, but you know. And then when I had my first child, I felt a bit as if I fell apart. And I wondered, on many occasions, I wondered if it was postnatal depression, but it didn't quite fit right. But I just wasn't functioning properly anymore. I was struggling to manage things. I had to get a massive calendar that I could write everything on the wall with, and I put multiple alarms in my phone so that I could remember things I had to do on a daily basis. And as I hit my late 30s, early 40s, now I'm in my mid-40s, things are getting even harder. And then I started reading stuff about perimenopause and hormonal changes, and how these can make the challenges of those with ADHD and autism a lot harder. So first of all, when girls hit puberty in their early teens, or even younger for some, the big hormonal changes can create greater challenges for girls, which is why a lot of girls get diagnosed at that age. Because prior to that age, they can hold it together and mask. And then again, during things like pregnancy and birth and breastfeeding, the hormonal changes that go along with that. And then again, around, for those of us that have children, and then again around perimenopause and menopause, the hormonal changes can just screw with us even worse than anything else. And so these symptoms become greater. And so then there's a whole new raft of women getting diagnosed in their kind of 40s and 50s. And I've always known I was different, but I never really knew why. I have a twin. I'm half foreign. we were Catholics growing up in a non-Catholic country and sent off to a different school. So there were lots of reasons that could have been the reasons why I felt different. I was also one of the brightest in my year, but nothing quite fit as the reason why I felt different until I stumbled upon neurodiversity when I was about 19. Started looking after I was nannying for a family of 4 children, and the oldest was diagnosed with given a number of neurodiverse labels. And something felt really familiar. And I started to read up primarily so that I could work better with him. But the stuff that I was reading up about, I was like, this feels quite familiar. So anyway, I finally decided to bite the bullet, and I have my first appointment with a psychologist on Monday to talk about the possibility of getting an assessment, because I want to know, and I'm quite excited about it, but I'm also afraid they're going to tell me, well, their language would probably be, there's nothing wrong with you, or you're normal. But to me, I am normal as I am, and there's nothing wrong with me as I am. But my greatest fear is for them to tell me I'm neurotypical, because I know I'm not. So we'll see. I feel quite apprehensive about it, and also excited because it feels like the start of a really important journey. And my kids are going through the assessment process, and I feel like it's really important for me to do, walk the talk, practice what I'm asking them to do. So we'll see how it goes, and I'll keep you posted as I go on this journey, because I do feel that, menopause in itself and neurodiversity in women, these are areas that they're not supported as well as they should be. A lot of the research has been around men for everything. And, 2 of the major things, neurodiversity and menopause, in neurodiversity in women and menopause, are things that are not researched enough. So I think it's really important to break any taboos of not sharing and not talking about our vulnerabilities, our challenges, our issues, the things that make us special and precious, but also make things difficult for us. And so I will share how this journey goes with you. And the phrase unicorn came into my head. Fingers crossed I turn out to be a validated unicorn. There's my insecurities coming out, because I feel like I'm not even good enough to be neurodiverse. So we'll see. I'll let you know. Have a great week, everyone.